Hi, welcome to Grid Busters. So today what I want to do is address some of your comments in some of the previous videos with regards to isolation of the batteries. So a few of you were asking why I had not put like isolation switches in for each battery. And in essence, what I was doing was I was just following the manual for Victron equipment, and they say you don't actually need to have an isolation switch as long as you have like a removable fuse. So here in the bus bar, you can see I've got these fuses. So what they were saying was, as long as you've got a fuse which you can pull out, in essence, what that will do is it will isolate a battery. So if I pull one of these fuses out, then you've isolated a battery and you can work on the battery. But it kind of got me thinking, and I had a look online and I found on Amazon these battery shut-off switches, which, to be honest, are not very expensive. They're pretty cheap. And I actually thought, it would be quite neat if I could have some of these isolation switches, one isolation switch per battery. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. So what I want to actually do is I want to have one of these isolation switches for every single battery. And what I want to do is mount them here underneath the board so we can have, well, first of all, we're just going to have 2 isolation switches, but I will, for phase 1 of this project, I want to have eight batteries. So we'll have 8 switches going all the way along here. Now the other thing is, a couple of you were saying maybe I shouldn't be paralleling the batteries up. So I'm not going to be paralleling the batteries. I thought actually, I've got the space, I've got this Victron, very nice Victron power in unit. Each one of these units here can do 4 individual batteries. And I also have space here for another power in, which I'm going to get. So what I can actually do is have separate cables, separate fuses, separate on-off switch for every single battery in the system. And that way, it's just nice to have everything individual. And then if in the future, if I ever do want to increase the system to 200 kilowatt hours or 250 kilowatt hours, which I don't know, we'll see what happens next year at the end of, well, next winter, we'll see if I need another 100 kilowatt hours. I think 100, 120 kilowatt hours is going to be enough, but if I wanted to update it to, let's say a 250 kilowatt hour system, then I could run them in parallel. So I do have that option. So we will be putting another power in unit there. Okay, so for today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mounting these switches. I have already removed the cables which we did in the previous video. Unfortunately, the camera ran into a little problem, corrupted the SD card, and erased all my footage from a video which I was going to be putting out yesterday, actually. So it's really annoying. I'm having to redo all this again. Or rather, you won't get to see me taking all this apart and drilling all this out. So what we're going to be doing today, like I said, mounting these switches. Also got to cut this cable in half and put on and crimp on some more connectors. You can see on the back of these, we've got very nice terminals there. And I don't actually have the correct crimpable connectors because, as you can see, the bolt here doesn't go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out the hole here so this then fits. So you can see here I've numbered on the wall here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The idea being we've got one, or rather it'd be like that, one switch per battery. Then there's a little space here for the negative wires on this side and negative wires on this side. Obviously we're switching only the positive cable. Now this is just plasterboard here, drywall. And this switch is actually quite hard to turn on and off, and I know if I just screw this into the drywall, it will end up coming out, and it's actually a little bit set back. So my thought was what I will do is, because there is a joist here and here, like a beam behind the wall. So this is a little piece of MDF, and the idea is I'm going to mount the MDF here, and then I've got something solid to screw the switches to. So the first thing I need to do today is drill out a hole here and drill out a hole here and get this screwed to the wall. Right, so these are just pilot holes to get this to screw into the beam behind the drywall. I think that is about it. There we go. That feels pretty solid to me. So the next job is just going to paint that white. Obviously I'm going to fill these holes here, so I'll touch all that up later. The next job I need to do is to cut these cables down. So these are the cables we made in the previous video, which were the cables which go from the battery to the Victron power in unit, which then connects to the inverter. And remember, we're putting a switch halfway through. So what I actually did was, before I removed the cables, I marked on the cable with a cable tie the length that it needs to be, where I want to cut the cable. So this is just on the positive. I don't need to worry about the negative. Just on the positive, I need to cut the cable, and then we're going to crimp some of these connectors on so that we can then connect it up to the switch. So the first thing I'm actually going to do, if I can find my snips, and they're not here. Okay, let's just cut this. I'm going to take this cable tie off. I have marked it with pencil. So let me just remove the old cable tie. Now, in the previous video, I was talking about these snips and how difficult it was to cut cable. And I'm going to show you an example of this. So these cables are really good these cable cutters are really good if you want to cut small cables. However, I do have some 95mm cable, which is like twice the thickness of this, and there's no way I'm going to cut that with these cutters. And to be honest, even this cable, which is 45mm, I think, is this 45? No, this is 50mm cable. So even 50mm cable, it's a struggle to cut this. So I went to my local electrical wholesalers here in France, and I wasn't holding out much hope. And we looked in the catalogue, and they ordered me these snips. Now, when they arrived, my heart kind of sunk, because I'd ordered them and I kind of like had to pay for them because I'd ordered them and everything. And I thought, oh crikey, these aren't going to be very good. These are actually German. And I got them home, and well, let me just show you how good they are or how bad they are. So here are my old cutters. I'm just going to cut a piece of this offcut off. And oh, you can see it's like, this is very, very difficult. Right, I can't actually cut that, so yeah, I'm giving up there. So yeah, okay, let's cut the sheath off and a little bit of copper. So giving up there. Let's try the new ones. So these are these new German ones, and look at that. I could do that with one finger. That easy. Absolutely incredible. So what I will do is I will put a link to the make, and is there a model number on here? The label there. That is, if you can find those online. Yeah, so that's highly recommend these. I haven't tried them on the 95mm cable, but I'm sure, I mean, to be honest, the fact that I can cut this, one. And what we want to do is cut this down. So where's the mark? Here we go. So here's the pencil mark. So I'm going to cut this positive cable down here. Wow, that's so easy to cut. It's very satisfying. Yeah, so I think we'll keep these for non-essential stuff. They're probably quite good wire cutters if I wanted to cut chicken wire or something like that. So those can go on the shelf. There we go. You can use those for something else. And I'm going to make sure these are only used for cutting this kind of cable. That's going to be the rule because I don't want these to get blunt. These were really expensive. These were, I think these were like 90 euros or 85 or 90 euros, something like that, like $100. So yeah, not cheap, really small, but very, very good. Highly recommend them. So the problem is the switch has a slightly different bolt hole size to everything else. So different to the bus bar, different to the power in, and as you can see, it won't actually fit. So what I've done, I've drilled one out already, and what I did was I put that on the bench drill, and I've drilled it out, and it fits. I just need to file down the burrs on that. So we've got one more here for this cable anyway, to drill. I'm also going to make a second set of cables as well for the other battery. So got a few more of these to drill. So I'm going to get drilling. Now, unfortunately, this drill bit is not the right drill bit. I don't think this is a metal drill bit. It's crazy, really. I've got to buy some proper drill bits, but we'll hopefully we'll get through this. If not, I'll have to go and buy a different drill bit. But let's see how we get on. Up a bit, get the burr off. Time to strip some cables. So in the last video I was using well, a couple of videos back when I was crimping some connectors on, I was using a knife, and a few of you said I should find alternatives, use like a proper cable stripper. So I purchased this thing online, and yeah, it sort of, the thing about it is it works sometimes and other times it doesn't work. Let me show you. So here we go. So I'm just going to put it on the cable. Hopefully it should work this time. So I'm just going to put it on there and then twist it around until I can feel it going through into the copper. That's it. And then boom. So that seemed to work okay. So I think I'll use that. I think that would be a little bit too long for, let's just have a look. Yeah, so that would be a bit too long. So let's give it a go. So really, that is about the limit there, I would say. I'll just mark that with the knife so I know it's roughly about there is where I want to do the cut. So not sure if you can see, but there is a little blade in there, and you have to make sure it's the correct way around to do the cut. So I think that's good. I think that might need to just turn around. There we go, because it does, this little blade does spin around on its own. There we go. Right. Let's give that a go. I think we're going to be about there. There we go. There we go. Oh, I think I could have done one more turn on there. So there's just a little tiny bit of insulation there still to go through. I think we are there. There we go. So pretty good. I think, let's see if that's going to be long enough or if it's too long. So, but I think that should be perfect. Okay, that's pretty much bang on. Time to do some crimping. I've got one of the ends that I had to drill out. So this end here will go into the switch because it's a positive cable. So let's just get that in there and start clamping that. I think I'll double crimp these like I always do. Yep, happy with that. I'm just going to do another crimp on there. This larger crimper is so much better than the smaller one. I would highly recommend that you buy a larger crimper, even if you don't need to do the larger cables. It's just got much more leverage because the handle's longer, you know. There we go. Perfect. Happy with that. And yeah, just a bit of heat shrink. Yeah, that's okay. There we go. Happy with that. Yeah, that's not coming off. Yeah, so let's get that heat shrinked as well. I'm glad this is actually heat shrink because it's really challenging being in a foreign country. So in France, you know, I don't really speak much French. Certainly not technical terms for electrical engineering and stuff like that. So I was in the electrical wholesaler and I was trying to explain to them that I wanted heat shrink and I couldn't quite, obviously the Google Translate didn't really work very well. So they kind of gave me this stuff and I didn't have anything written on it. It's just like, they gave me like a 1 meter length of the stuff. Really expensive. They charged me like 20, 25 euros or something for it, but I just needed it. Going on Amazon, again, it was very hard to know if it was the right size. So that's why I went to the electrical wholesaler. So I got it and just thinking, today I was actually thinking, I wonder if it's actually going to shrink. I wonder if this is just sleeving. I don't know if this is heat shrink or not. So it wasn't until I applied some heat that I found out that actually, yes, it is heat shrink. So it is challenging just getting simple things like that here. But yeah, got there in the end. So yeah, there we go. One complete cable. That's the short one. So what's next? So next is the positive cable for battery number 2. So this will just use 2 standard stock ring terminals because the negative cable, we don't cut that. So let's just... One thing I am a little bit worried about, and please comment on this if you know if I should do this or not, but obviously I have drilled these out, exposing some copper, because obviously they're plated with something. I'm assuming they're plated with zinc or something, and I've had to file off the burr, and as a result, yeah, they're lovely and shiny copper now. Is that okay to have shiny copper? Will the copper tarnish? Is this going to affect resistance? Is this improving resistance? Should I, in time, cut these off and buy the correct terminals, which have the correct hole, which has the zinc plating on the inside, or is this absolutely fine? I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be okay. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. I would really love some feedback. Let me know what you think. Certainly, I think for the other batteries, I'm going to have 8 batteries. So the other batteries, I will buy some with the correct size holes, just simply because it's less work. I don't have to drill them out and file them. But let me know if I should redo these cables or if these connectors are okay. Hope they're okay. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let's get the heat shrink on there. I think having the skill to make your own cables is such a good thing. I've always made my own hi-fi cables. I used to, work in the television industry, and you need to have that skill of being able, when you work in TV, for instance, be able to make a cable, because you might be on location and something might break and you've got to be able to repair it. So with this system, I could have bought pre-made cables, and obviously that would have been a lot more expensive. But I think having that knowledge of being able to make your own cables like this is fantastic, because in the future, if I want to modify the system, or if something breaks or something, I can obviously just make my own cable. I can repair it myself. I can fix things. Also, with this, I can actually make the cables to the exact length I want. So there's no extra cable flapping around, they're made to the precise length, which I think is really, really good. Right, so we've just got one final one to do on this. Let's just get this lined up. There we go. Fantastic. These connectors are very good. I got them off eBay in the UK, so I will definitely be getting more of these. I did put a link to these connectors in the description of one of my videos, because somebody was asking if I could put a link to where I got them from. And I think what I will do is, if I remember, I will put a link to the eBay listing where I got these from in the UK. So if I haven't done that, please remind me in the comments. If I've forgotten to put the link in the description, please remind me, and I will put the link in the description where I got these from. And obviously, if you live in a foreign country, you could have them sent to you. But what I actually did was I just bought loads of connectors from lots and lots and lots of different companies, and then checked the quality. Most of them, nearly all of them, were rubbish. They were either really, really thin metal, just rubbish quality. And then eventually I found a company, it was actually on eBay, that had good connectors. So it's just trial and error, and then when I found that company, then that's just where I buy all my connectors from now, these crimpable connectors. But yeah, really good. I mean, they're really meaty, really thick, really important. You don't want flimsy connectors. It's the same actually, I remember when I was making cables for my hi-fi, and it's like you can buy all these fancy cables, and to be honest, cable quality, buying expensive cables makes no difference to, for instance, sound quality on a hi-fi. But what does matter is the quality of the connectors. In other words, they're not flimsy. They're not going to fall apart. That is the worst thing. So when buying connectors, even for hi-fi equipment, I make the cables up myself. I always made sure that the actual connectors themselves, like the phono sockets or whatever, or the XLR sockets, were meaty, chunky, heavy duty. That was more important than getting fancy gold-plated ones or whatever. And it's the same with actually the solar system. What's more important is to have meaty, chunky, thick connectors, ones which aren't just going to crumble to the touch. I think that's really important. Right, there we go. Another cable done. Right, well, the next job is going to be connecting everything up. So I think what I will do is I'm going to connect up the neutral cables first, and then we'll put the positive cables in and the switches. So that's the neutral cable for the first battery and the neutral cable for the second battery. go. So we have the washer goes on first, then we have our copper split washer, and then we have the nut. There we go. Not sure what the actual correct torque is on these, just going to need to snap this off because we're putting another cable in there. I'll have to look up the torque settings. I'll do that this evening, but for now I'll just do them up tightly. I'm not going to be running any loads. Here we go. So then these go down. And we have put this on this side here. There we go. That one will go there. And then this one will go there. I need to undo that. There we go. Might as well do this one up now. Whoops. There we go. So it just occurred to me that we've got two negative cables here. I don't want to get them mixed up, so I'm just making sure I know which is which. So this is going to be battery number 1 on this from the left, and then 2, 3 and 4. So I'm just double checking. Yes, that is battery 1. So battery 1, I'm just going to put some insulation tape temporarily, just so that I remember which is which. There we go. Right. And that way I won't get things muddled up. Now, one thing I have noticed is I think I've made these a little bit too short. I think I'll get away with it, but I personally would have liked the first switch to be further to the left. It's not a deal breaker. I think we can still fit 8 switches even if we start here. So as an example, the first switch here, I would have liked it to be over here, but yeah, I've done these cables too short, which is, oh dear. So the first switch is going to have to be around here, which I think I can still get away with. I can certainly get the first 4 in really easily. I'm just going to need to extend this board here out another, I don't know, 3 inches, 2 inches at the end to hold the last switch, and that will be next year anyway, so I'm not going to worry about that now. So the first thing is I need to make sure I've got cable number 1, and there is a green section at the top there, which means it's on, and I want that to be facing up. So let me see. So I think it's going to be something like that. There we go. Yeah, so it would be something like that. Kind of hard to get to, but not too bad. Okay, that's the first one in. And then let's get our negative, sorry, the other positive cable, which will come in from the bottom there. So we've got a positive, positive. That's not right. Here we go, that's the right one. And then that will get mounted up like there. So what I'm going to do is get these out of the way. Oh dear. This keeps coming off. And there we go. Hey, that works quite well. So I just had a thought. How do I know that I've wired this up correctly at the back? I haven't actually checked it with the meter. So this is in the on position now. So I need to make sure, I'm just doing a continuity test to make sure I've got this the correct way round before I put the other ones in. Yep, that sounds pretty good to me. Let's turn the battery off. Fantastic, there we go. And then back on again. Brilliant. That's a very satisfying switch. Glad I'm putting those in. Right, let's get the next one in. Yeah, that looks all right, doesn't it? So those are the 4 cables for battery 1 and 2, and then battery 3 and 4 will come out here. Yeah, it's going to get a little bit crowded when we've got another module here. So, maybe when I put another module here, what I might do is move all of these connections here and these 2 switches along to here. That probably will be the best way to do it. Or I could just put another 2 switches here actually. Yeah, I think that's probably what I'll do is I'll put another 2 switches here, and then when I get the second power in, I'll put it here and they can then connect straight up, and then these 2 switches can be used for batteries 3 and 4, which will then go into here. yeah, I think that will work really well, but temporarily they're fine here. So the next thing we need to do is get all this lot hooked up to the batteries. So I'm just trying to figure out the best cable routing. Now obviously I need to imagine that we've got 8 of these batteries, you know, double stacked. So for these first 2, I could bring the cables around, you know, battery 1 and battery 2. But I'm thinking maybe I should, for the first 2 batteries, bring all of the cables kind of around the front. Not sure. Right, well, let's get this first one hooked up. Both the batteries are turned off at the moment. So there's no current on these posts at all. Right, I won't do these up tightly until I finalise the route of the cable. So I thought was, so if that's gonna, I think I'll have to cable tie these all so that they're all smart. They look good. I want this to look good as well. Well, since I'm going to be wiring up all of these batteries individually, I'm actually thinking maybe it would make more sense to put them on the lower posts so it doesn't block the screen. So I'm going to give that a go. And that way, if I've got them going along, I can still see the screens. I've got access to all of the buttons. That makes a lot more sense. And I can cable tie these all up so they look really, really tidy and neat. So I think that is what I'm going to do. Or if I want to get really fancy, I could cable lace them. I was watching a video from the Digital Mermaid. You should go and check her out if you haven't seen the Digital Mermaid. She's got a great channel. She's converting a sailing boat and ripping out the diesel engine and putting an electric motor in. Fantastic channel. Highly recommend it. I'll put a link to it in the description. But she was doing a video on cable lacing, and this is something that kind of phased out in the 60s and 70s really, and you only ever saw in really high-end equipment like mainframes. I remember seeing it in the back of 1-inch video machines, video machine consoles back in the 80s and 90s. And this is where they've got, you've got hundreds of like white cables, and instead of using cable ties, it's done with kind of lacing, very fine lacing, but all done very, very neatly. You can actually follow every cable all the way around, and it's much neater than using cable ties. Obviously, it takes a long time to do. It's kind of like a lost art because everybody uses cable ties now, but maybe I'll use cable lacing once I've got everything finalised. It's the sort of thing you don't want to do until you've got everything 100% finalised because it's very time consuming. I've never done it before, but Maddie on the Digital Mermaid, she did it, so I'll have to watch her video again on how to do it. because that is something which is very cool. Right, I'm pleased with that. So I think that's the way to go. And that is, yeah, so if we get that all laced up like nice and neatly, it have to be absolutely done perfectly. I'll whack a couple of cable ties in this temporarily just to until I've got everything finalized. So I'll put cable ties in there for now, but yeah, I'm really happy with that. So what I'm going to do is whack all these extra screws back in, and then get all of these tightened up, put the covers on. Let's try and get this as neat as possible. There we go. And I'll put one here. When you're cable tying, you want to try and get all of the cables in line so you can follow a cable back even when it's cable tied. And I like to try and get the heads of my cable ties all lined up. And if I'm doing a long cable run, you want to get the distances the same. I usually measure it, so yeah, just so it looks nice. A little bit OCD, but I think it's these things are important. I think they're important anyway. They're important to me. Nothing worse than a rat's nest of cables for a permanent installation, you know. For a temporary installation, it's not too bad, but yeah. Okay, so there we go. So I'm really happy with how that's come out. Now, the one problem I have is this cable here. So this cable here is not long enough. So when I come to stack another battery on here, this doesn't quite go around. So, but I don't see it as being too much of a problem because like we were saying, I'm going to get another power in and that is going to go here. I'll probably get that in the next few weeks because I want to add more batteries and have more capacity. So when I add the second power in here, I'll be moving all of these cables over to here, and what I will do is I will disconnect these cables and move them to 2 new switches here. And that way, when I've got 4 batteries, I'm going to ordering another 2 of these batteries very soon actually. So when we move everything over, then that cable will be long enough. So I'm not too worried about it. So yeah, very happy. So that concludes this very long video, getting all my cabling sorted out. In the next video, I'm going to be cabling up the inverter to the bus bar with those big monster 95mm cables. We need to do 2 sets of cables, you know, the manual says for this. And the other thing which we're going to do is we're going to hook up the inverter, the Quattro, to the laptop and get the Quattro configured. I've got a special cable which goes from the CAN bus, I think it is, connection on the Quattro to a USB. And then we'll have fun and games trying to get that connected to the laptop. I've always had problems connecting things like this to laptops through USB adapters, but yeah, let's have fun with that and see if we can get that working and configured so that we can set it up to charge the batteries from the mains. So the other thing which I want to do is get this hooked up to my mains power supply temporarily until we've got the solar panels installed, and then I can be charging the batteries. One final thing, the planning permission finally came through for our solar panels. So we got the planning permission this week for our solar panel installation on the barn roof. We are actually going to be putting 40 425 watt panels up on the barn. I've got 10 in stock already, so I'm about to, next week I'm going to order another 30 panels, and I'm also going to be ordering another 2 of those charge controllers. So yeah, a lot of work to be going. Plus, what I've also decided to do is replace the roof on the barn before I put the solar panels on, because at the moment, you know, the roof on the barn is just rusty corrugated iron. It's always looked horrible. It leaks as well. So there's little holes and things in it. So I've got a builder, Jude. So just Jude is doing it on his own with some help from me as well. And it's over 25 meters long, just the section we want to put the panels on, which is all corrugated iron. So we need to take the corrugated iron off on both sides of the roof, replace the entire roof with a modern steel roof. So we're going to got to order that as well. So a lot of stuff to order. And then we can put the racking on top of the roof and then attach the solar panels to the racking. So a lot of work to be getting on with, which is going to take us way into next year. Yeah, so hope you enjoy the project. Hope you enjoy what I'm doing here. Really appreciate your comments. If you have any feedback, any suggestions, anything you think I'm doing wrong, anything you think I should be doing, let me know and I'll include it. Thank you very much for your comments. Please like, please subscribe if you want to see more of these videos, and I'll catch you next time.